Welcome to our latest episode from the National Leadiology Association. We are back after being away for a few months. Today's going to be a really fun topic. It's the podcast episode is on learning leadership, letting go of who you were to become who you're wanting to be. I am your host, Dr. Amin Sanaia, and I'm happily joined by my partners here, Juan and Tad.
Hi guys, how's everybody doing?
How are you guys? Glad to be back. I tell you, I was missing this, so I'm glad that we're
Oh, yeah.
back. I know our fan club is waiting to hear us come back in the air, so I'm very excited.
Yeah, even if nobody else wants to listen to us, I like listening to us.
I love that. I love that. One of the things that I know we have a lot to catch up on over the last few months that we haven't been on, but we've all had something or some smaller or bigger item or life event that has preventing us from being able to be on here. But we're gonna get in a good cadence. One of the things that I was thinking about through the last few months is at times when we look at leadership, uh, we think that we need to add one more thing to our toolbox, or we have to get better at something else. And it's funny because sometimes the answer is simplicity. It's not adding more things, but maybe you have too many toys. You have too many tools in the toolbox, and you're not maximizing on using what you have or what you're good at. So we're going to talk a little bit about that today. So starting off, I wanted us to kind of just in 30, 45 seconds, each one of us just say a little bit of what we've been working on in the last 3 to 6 months. And in that, say one positive thing that you learned through the last 3 to 6 months. So, uh,
I'll go.
okay.
Okay, so where I'm currently working, which will remain unnamed right now, I've been fighting years and years of deferred maintenance. And in the last 6 months, I've been able to get a tremendous amount of capital reinvestment done into this particular building, which has made tremendously positive impacts on what we do here. And what I learned, what I always don't like to learn, but I have to learn over and over again, is patience. Because in a corporation, the gears move pretty slowly, and working through those processes can be really frustrating, especially coming from the last 20 years working in fairly small organizations where things move pretty quickly at most times. So, yeah, patience is what I learned. The positives are the improvements that I've been allowed to make and have been funded through corporate. So,
Great stuff. Juan?
So I've been very busy doing IT projects. Uh, had my little tour of the United States, visiting different locations, doing different updates, uh, and different system upgrade. What I have learned, but not learned, but something that came back from when I was young and started to work is that I got the opportunity to work with a team that we just we clicked. We just met. People came from different part of the world together, and it was a good chemistry. And when the team has a great chemistry like that team that we had, the work was effortless. And we worked 7 days a week. We worked straight, late hours, and it didn't feel like it was work. So I was happy to be back in that environment where it was fun to do what I love doing.
Oh, that's
it's
awesome.
amazing how working with people that you really respect and work just as hard is makes it effortless. It's just
Yes.
incredible.
Yeah, there's a lot to be said about the work environment and being able to work with people that fill your cup, not just take away from your cup.
Yeah.
So that is so vital. For me, I ran into the last 3 to 6 months just a reminder of what leadership is about. At the essence of it is truly is it's about people. It goes back to that, just the people, and the great responsibility we have as leaders of us being able to model um, what a leader should be, and also the reminder of you wanna act as the leader that you want, because then that's what you will see every day. So that was the one positive for me, and I'm just very grateful for that.
Well, I
Um,
was feeling really good about mine until you said yours. Thanks.
oh, you're hilarious. So going back to the topic that I presented at the beginning with the unlearning piece. One of the things that I read up a lot about in the last few months, um, in doing research of really how leaders that are very successful, what are certain dynamics or certain things that they look at, that they use, and it was funny because one of the things that I saw was that they stopped trying to add on more new gadgets or new methodologies or the latest and greatest, and just really went back to the basics and subtracting a lot of the noise and just really concentrating on the team, the strengths of the team, and really going with, okay, let's see, let's take a really good account of the pieces and everyone's strengths, and how do we play to that, and how does that ultimately end up in the organization being successful. And I love that. I love that piece, that playing into the strengths of the people, because at times we fall into this paradox of, okay, well, let's look at people's weaknesses and how do we help that person get better at that weakness? Well, the reality is we're human beings. We're we're great at certain things, and we're not so great at other things. And the more we help people do what they're great at for their most work time, the more they win, the more we win as an organization. Because that's when work becomes fun, right? When
Yeah.
when you're doing something that you really like, guess what, man? You're like, oh man, I can't wait to do that. But if we're constantly being reminded of, oh, this is what you're not good at, so we're gonna make you do it more, what is the point in that? So that was one thing that I really enjoy as I was doing the research. And growth really begins the moment we stop leading from who we were to leading from who we are right this second. I don't know if you guys wanted to say something. I think
So
Tam.
let me build on this a little bit, because you touch a couple of interesting topic, and I've been watching a lot of old basketball clips.
Mhm.
I'm a Bulls fan, so I'm a Jordan guy in the era. And if we go look at Jordan, Scottie Pippen, and Dennis Rodman, no one tried to make Dennis Rodman a shooter,
No, absolutely.
right? He was not a shooter, right? So don't try to make somebody something that they not naturally are. And that's what a good leader is, right? A good leader, takes your strength, not your weakness, and make you better at it because that's what you're good at. And that's what a good leader should be doing. Now, don't look at your team weakness and say, oh, he's the weakest link. No, he's not the weakest link. He's good at something else. It's your job to find out what he's really good at it and make sure that that's what he's doing.
I agree with that 110%. And I will say that what we're talking about now is probably for people that have been in a leadership position before.
Hmm.
Because I'm thinking about some young employees that I have right now
Okay.
that that need to be developed, that are weak in the broad sense of the term, simply because they don't know what they don't know, and they don't know a lot. So teaching them and getting them out of their comfort zone to grow them is part of that. But once I do that and I find out what they're good at or what they're passionate about, then I can redirect focus on there.
Yes.
But I was in a meeting a long time ago with this really, really smart bald guy that said, "Yeah, you don't want to teach Tad how to cook when you've got Tanner in the kitchen." Which is the truth. I'm not a cook. I'm not a chef. I mean, I can throw together a pretty good chili, but no, I'm not your gourmet guy. I'm your operations guy. I'm going to get things done. You want specialty in the kitchen? You can spend time on me, but it's not going to be time well spent. So, yeah, to your points exactly. There, if we can focus on the strengths and really just supplement weaknesses with other people's strengths instead of trying to make everybody the perfect, well-rounded leader, I think that we're going to be far better off.
Yeah, great, great words there. So let's start on the weight of old leadership scripts. Looking at traditional leadership back in its day, 30, 40, 50 years ago, I mean, we could even go back 20 years ago, I would say. A lot of leaders are trained to believe that you can't show emotion. Ooh, God forbid you show any emotion. You have to have all the answers, right? Oh, you have to know it all. Or my favorite, which I did early in my career, control of everything, including the outcome, which is false because you really don't control that. Um, if we look at that, I mean, what does that when I say those phrases, those old scripts, what comes to mind for both of you?
What pops into my mind, right? Having lived in both era, right, and the old and in the new, I will have to say that in the old, there was a freedom which we don't have now. The freedom to say whatever came to your mind without having to worry about consequences.
Oh yeah.
All right. And back then, it was about getting the work done, but also about having fun, being relaxed in the work environment, which I found out not so much, right? Now there's so much constraint and you need to be careful what you say that I think it inherits it blocks you for being your natural self. So we want to be our natural self, but there's boundaries and there's lines that we can't cross.
Yes.
Back then, nobody cared. I used to have a boss that used to tell me that I was his token employee. I was his token black. I was his token Hispanic. I was his token Hawaiian employee. Tell that to an employee now.
Don't know.
You're gonna find yourself in a one-way road trip to HR.
Yeah. Don't.
Find yourself at home that
And
afternoon.
then yeah, home afterwards.
All right, you couldn't say that. You could say that before, but nowadays you can't say things like that.
Nope.
So I think in the old days, just like basketball, since we started with basketball, right? It was just a rough work environment, but you accepted it. That's what it was.
Hmm.
Now we got LeBron, who's just jumping off because somebody winked at him too hard. Uh, so it's different, And what's better? That's a good question, and I don't know which of the two environments are better. But as leaders, we need to adjust as
Yes.
the environment is changing. You know, Tack talked about new, young employees. Don't get me started. We need to have a whole chapter on the snowflake, you know, era because they're not built the way we were built.
Hmm.
So today we had kids at work. Big Brother program comes every couple of weeks. brings kids. You can't bring them snack, right? Because they got peanut allergy or they got chocolate allergy. You know, I remember going to school. No one ever asked me when I was going to school if I had any type of allergies. The cafeteria had whatever it had. You eat it or you didn't eat it,
That's it.
right?
And you weren't gonna eat. If you didn't eat it, you didn't eat
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. If you didn't like it, then don't eat it. You know. And but now it's so many rules. I don't know if we're better off, but this is the environment that we're at, so we need to adjust.
Yeah.
As managers and leaders, we have to adjust to the new work environment, to this new era. And when you say too many tools, I don't think we have too many tools, right? Because a good mechanic knows when to pull out which tool. So the tools are there. You just need to know when to use them.
I like that. Ooh,
Yeah,
great,
that's good.
great.
And I would say that we probably are a little bit better off realizing that even back in the day when you used to be able to yell and scream at somebody because they were just being a complete and total, you know what,
See, before you could say it, now we can.
yes, now you can't. But that's not necessarily a bad thing because that requires me to use my vocabulary and an intelligence that's not in my brainstem to communicate what I need to say to that person. And it doesn't put off everybody else that's around. I also don't scream at people in the middle of an open area. It's a one-on-one conversation in a private area.
Mhm.
But to answer your first question, though, I would say that when I first got into leadership, I suffered from needing to know everything, for needing to be the smartest person in the room, for if everybody came to me, I had to have the answer. And if they came to me with a potential solution, I felt like it was my job to pick that solution apart and see if it really was the best or tell them how it wasn't and give them my better idea, whether it was right or not. Instead of to the what we talked about to begin with, my strength may not be your problem solving. That may be your strength. And my strength is empowering you to come up with the solutions that you're best suited to take care of because you're actually the one turning the wrench or caring for the customer or whatever it's going to be. So yeah, that not being the smartest person in the room is a lesson that I have had to learn, and I've embraced it more than not, but sometimes I'm the backslid Baptist. So
Yeah.
Oh man, good one, good one. Um, before we move on to the next part of this, we're gonna do a little bit of an exercise. But before we jump into that, this is what I want you guys to think about while I tell a personal story about a moment where, for me, it's an old leadership behavior that served me in the past, but at some point it stopped being helpful, and I had to unlearn it or stop using it. So I want you both to think about, identify one leadership behavior that served you in the past, but today would not fit what you do, who you are. So think about that. And if you want to name it as well. Uh, so there was a time when I thought good leadership meant always being in control. I said that earlier. And it was, I was wound up very tight, very tight. I know I've spoken about this in previous episodes. Um, I needed to have all the answers. That's what I thought a leader was. Everyone came to you. You know, it was your show. You needed to control everything. Oh my God, was I wrong? And it was, I put the pressure on myself, thinking that I needed to hold it together all the time. You know, you couldn't show any weakness. So it was hard, man. I just laugh now when I go back and think about that, my young self as a leader. Uh, but there came a moment when I had a very experienced team. So the environment was a little bit different, right? When you have a very experienced team, and you have people that are really good at what they do, and they have Some of them have more experience than I did, a lot more. Um, and I felt the energy was off from the time that I started putting this team together in this new role. And it took me a few months to realize that the problem was me, not them, because again, I was leading from that old self that thought that I had to have all the answers. I had to have control. I had to have the last say so. And that's hard when you have very experienced, seasoned people that really know their job. And it took me took me some months to realize that and to have the moment of self-reflection and say, wait a minute. I mean, just looking back at that whole time, there's a common denominator there. And it was me being a bottleneck to the team. The moment I realized that, then I knew I needed to change. And that allowed me that moment to grow as a human being and also a leader and realize that just as human beings, leadership evolves. So leadership is not something you for me and for what I've seen, experienced, and learned, leadership is situational. It depends on the situation, on the team, on the environment where you are. And that was a great moment for me. One of the best lessons learned was that time. Now, for both of you, I would love to hear what were you guys thinking about?
Well, first of all, thank you for that. That's that level of vulnerability and ability to share is hopefully it's going to be helpful to others, and I appreciate it tremendously. Juan, do you want to go?
Uh, I could start off. I mean, it's for me the biggest challenge is always being letting go, right? Allowing your team to take control. Right? I always been in control. I always been in charge.
Yep.
To the point where it impacts your health eventually,
Ooh.
right? Because you don't disconnect, and you need to disconnect to de-stress and unwind. And that took a while for me to learn that. Uh, and it's hard because I'm raised in a way that I'm the man, I'm in charge. You got to do everything.
Hmm.
Everything falls on you. If something goes wrong, it's me. So being able to let go and let your team take control, but at the same time, not only let go, but also be supportive. That if something goes wrong, you step up because this is my team. We'll
Hmm.
get to the bottom of it. You don't hang the person to dry just because you let go. Right? At the end, you're still responsible, but you need to be able to empower your team to deliver. And once you do that, and once I learn how to do that, then it's an easy road, right? Because you get the support from the team, you get the respect from your team, and things start working a lot smoother, and you get to enjoy your life a little longer. Your quality of life increases because you're letting go.
I love what you just said, Juan, and I was raising my hand like, oh my God.
Hallelujah.
Before you go to that, I just wanted to say, man, I was wound up so tight and thinking that I have all this control and I wanted to control everything. I ended up with a migraine for 30 days. Ended up in the hospital. They couldn't find what was wrong with me. I mean, eventually it's just the pressure and the stress that I put on myself. Not that other people put on me, that I put on myself because I was one those so tight. So, I mean, to what you're saying is 100% truth. I lived it.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, and it's just as negative on the people around you as it is on yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, so yeah. So for me, mine mirrors a little bit of what yours was. I mean, it one of the hardest lessons I had to learn as a leader was managing people that were significantly older and with a tremendous amount of more experience than I had.
Hmm.
And my arrogance was that, hey, they put me in charge, not you. So having that little, almost like a chip on my shoulder, that ego out in front of me, like, yeah, yeah, you see what my name badge says? And and it was humbling when the one particular instance was we were having an issue, and it was during a construction of a new property that was tying on to an existing property, and I had read through all the specs, I knew all the details to it, and I was sitting there and I was like, okay, we're going to do this. And I told my team we need to make sure we do this, and one of the old guys raised his hand and said, "Have you thought about maybe doing it this way?" And I was like, "Of course I thought about that." And then I just jumped down his throat. And then I walked out of that meeting thinking, I am such a dumbass because no, I didn't think about that. And I was too prideful to admit that. And I had to immediately walk back into that meeting, gather everybody back together and say, okay, listen, I was a dick. I'm sorry. You were absolutely right. And no, I did not actually think about that. And I apologize that I didn't come and seek your counsel earlier. And I will endeavor not to make that mistake again. Now, of course, I made that mistake a few more times, but it was a very important and valuable lesson that stuck with me over time to realize, so listen, just because I'm the person in the chair, so to speak, doesn't mean that I'm the one with the most experience and the most knowledge. Just might mean that there are other people with a greater amount of knowledge that don't want that responsibility. And not seeking their counsel, not pulling that information from their heads and that experience and institutional knowledge in many respects from them into the and incorporating into the discussion is it's hubris on a monumental scale, and it's just a recipe for failure and disaster. So yeah, that setting my pride and my ego aside was huge for me, and it's something that I still have to wrestle with because occasionally I wake up thinking more of myself than there actually is, and so yeah, it I don't have to repeat it nearly as often as I used to, but yeah, that was a big one.
No. I'm glad. Thank you both for sharing. But what you said, Tad, there at the end, that I don't nearly have to do it as often. That is so human. That is so true because it takes a long time for us to get away from those old habits that we did for, I don't know, hundreds, thousands of times, right? It doesn't just automatically go away because, okay, now I learned this new thing. And no, now you have to put it into practice and you have to catch yourself. And the more you catch yourself, the more you're like, okay, now you're retraining, you're rewiring your brain. And I'm sorry, but I'm gonna geek out for just a little bit
Do
and
it,
just
do it.
add on a light neuroscience to it. So our brain's ability to be able to rewire itself, that's neuroplasticity, right? And for many years, people thought, oh no, you are who you are, and you don't get, you at a certain point you start learning new things. That's been proven wrong. So you actually do.
I've been on vacation since last week, but I haven't been off work yet.
Oh man, I feel that.
Um, the neuroplasticity makes unlearning or learning new things possible because of that rewiring, and it's the way we teach ourselves. So when we teach ourselves to stop doing something, or when we teach ourselves something new, the more we do it, that's when the rewiring starts happening, and the new neural pathways start creating themselves. And that's why you have to do it over and over and over again until you get to that point that you're doing subconsciously. One of the things that I do wanted to touch upon was the rewire loop. So the rewire loop, it talks about awareness. So making sure that you're aware of the situation, right, or the problem. Then you have the reflection point, And right after that, then is the replacement. What's the new outcome that you want to do? So the more you do that, that's when the magic happens. So I'll give you a perfect example. Imagine you're in a meeting and someone challenges your idea, just like Tad said, right? The- and awareness is recognizing the instinct to jump in and defend yourself, right? Well, hold on a second, don't do it. But we have no choice, right? Because we're built to like, no, this is my idea, so I'm going to defend it. Um,
Well,
Go
go
ahead.
ahead.
No, no, go
Well,
ahead.
so we're built for combat. And
Yeah.
when you challenge me, man, my defenses go up. I recently read a book, and it was called the Next Conversation by Jefferson Fisher.
Okay.
And a line in there that had just, it was like a lightning rod when it hit me. It was, your first word to any response needs to be a breath,
Yes.
because that beat does several things. It gives the room enough time to absorb what was last said. It allows you time to do what Tanner says. I may not be able to control my first thought, but I can control my second,
Or the
and then
100.
measure that response before you say it.
Yeah.
And I've been doing that without realizing that's what I've been doing. But when he gave that thing a name, I was like, oh my gosh, I need to go preach this on high. And
Yeah.
that's what I'm telling all of my peers, all of my colleagues, all of my kids, the same thing. Listen, when you get upset, your first word needs to be a breath,
Yeah.
because you can't unring that bell.
No.
And more times than not, what you say in anger or in haste is going to make you look foolish, not everybody else.
Mhm. And then
Yeah,
once the words come out, you
Yeah,
can't
you
take it
can't
back.
read those. Yeah.
yeah. I'm on the other end. I'm on the other end of that. I find myself in a project where we're eliminating a system that's been in place for 30 years. And the people that built it are there still. To get those people to change,
No.
to look at things differently, it's not an easy task. They're used to seeing and doing things in a certain way, and it's challenging to get them to see that there is a better way to do this. And yeah, I've been challenged with that a little bit, uh, but calmly, without getting upset, slowly putting ideas out there, slowly implementing new things so they can see that, yeah, this might have worked 30 years ago, but, you know, things have changed. The technology has changed, things have evolved. So there are other ways of doing things. And we have also have learned in those past 30 years that maybe that solution was planted was not the best, but it's been in place. And like anything else that was done in the mainframe that's still in place is there because nobody wrote anything down.
Mhm.
And the person who probably wrote it already retired. So it works, why touch it? All right, that's the rule in IT. If it works, don't touch it. But but now we're touching it. And it's been challenging because people are used to seeing things and doing things one way, and we're turning things around, even in the business. We just hitting them upside down. Now we tell them straight, it says, listen, we are gonna break stuff. That's the reality. The stuff that's been in place, I'm gonna break it, but we're here to fix it. You just need to, to support us and be part of this, right? Don't be part of the problem, be part of the solution. We got to work together and we got to move forward. We're gonna break stuff, and we have been breaking stuff, but we fix them and we move forward. And there is a light at the end of the tunnel. We have a big migration coming up July 4th, so there's either going to be fireworks because things blew up, or there's going to be fireworks because this was a great project. But there will be fireworks on July 4th.
Man, that's awesome. I love that. It goes back to, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Well, that's all well and good, but that's not what growth is. That's not what leadership is. If you want something to grow, take your muscles. You're going to have to make those muscles sore for them to grow. And growth is hard. Change is even harder, especially when it's not your idea. But yeah, I loved how you approached them with, yeah, it's been working, but there is a better way. And
Mhm.
let me show you what that is. And then why don't you walk this journey with me?
Yeah, and I'm definitely not the smartest guy in the room, that's for sure. Especially with moving to this whole new technology, cloud, and all that. They're talking in lingo that I don't understand, but that's I have a couple of young kids in the team that I depend on them, and they know that, and I let them know, and they're empowered to do whatever they needs to do to get it done. Because you got to work to their strength.
And I'd say that that's probably one of the biggest things that we maybe have unlearned
Mhm.
is we've let go of the control that we needed to have
Yeah,
because we were responsible for the thing that we were responsible for. And we've released that to those that we're leading and empowered them to be responsible and take ownership of it. And then that stress comes off of us, it comes off of them because they've got the freedom and the autonomy and the creativity to reach a goal. We've just said, hey, listen, this is where we're at. We want to hit these milestones along the way. The ultimate goal is here. If you've got a creative way to get there, let's talk about it because your ideas are probably going to be way better than mine.
Yeah. And that takes us to actually our next next topic is replacing that control, right? With curiosity.
Be
So
curious, not judgmental.
there you go. There you
as
go.
long as it doesn't kill the cat, we're good.
Oh Lord. Hopefully, our audience can get the pun on that joke. Um, but yes, we have to replace that control, that wanting to control that we're letting go, with being curious, and what better way for us to grow, right? Like we talking about growth and change, what Tad you just mentioned, than being curious, allowing um, ideas to flow, while not everything is going to work. But during that process, magic happens.
Oh,
We'll run into 100 million ways of how not to do something, but those are learning opportunities. And it gives us most of the times the answers that we're looking for, um, but we wouldn't have found the answers if we weren't curious enough to go on that journey of,
Yeah,
let's try something different.
well,
And,
that reminds me of Thomas Edison when he failed, what, 1,000 times to make the light bulb. I asked him, so you failed 1,000 times. What are you going to do now? And he goes, no, I haven't failed 1,000 times. I just know 1,000 different ways not to do it. Or WD-40,
yep.
yeah.
which is water displacement 40th attempt. What if they would have stopped at 39? And then we wouldn't have that anymore. So, and it was the curiosity of, okay, what's going to propel us to get to the next step? Uh,
Mhm.
who's going to bring that creative idea? Who's going to have that next barnstorming idea or service that we can come together as a team and then prosper not only with the company but our the people that we serve. That's the exciting part of it. And when you can broaden your vision, your horizon to more than just the troubles that are on your plate in the day,
Yeah.
really, really fun to be able to say, okay, listen, this is where we're going, and look at all this opportunity that we've got out here and all of this talent that we're going to go along with to get there.
Yeah, and it's fun when you actually allow someone to be curious, and you see the magic because you see their eyes glow, and it's like, for real, I can try this? Yeah, yeah, let's just try it.
Yeah.
And then you see them, the passion that comes into it, and now they're going to see something through because that's their idea, and feel part of something bigger because they have a say in it.
Yep.
It is so magical when we do that. Juan, did you want to say something?
Yeah, yeah. I tell my team all the time, even now in some of the president I'm working, it's like, oh, we're not sure if that's going to work. I says, well, you're not sure until you try it,
That's right.
right? Give it a try and see what happens. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. If it works, great, it works. But we won't know until you try. And I feel that sometimes they're afraid,
Hmm.
and probably because, you know, their previous project they might be working with somebody who did not give them that freedom,
Hmm.
I who wanted to control everything. So
Oh.
now, as you know, go ahead, give it a try, explore, right? You have the limits you have, they're your own limits. No one else is setting limits. I think I
And
hit a nerve.
I, oh, I would say that I've worked with colleagues, other leaders that have let their fear be their limiter. And
Mm.
and not necessarily because they didn't want great things, but they were so afraid of failing and looking bad that they let that overpower their curiosity and their desire to grow. And it's when you were talking about it just now, Juan, you you won't know if it's not going to work until you try it. But you just help that person or those people get past that fear of saying, "Oh, yeah, I'm not going to get in trouble if what I do doesn't work." No, that's what we're here.
Yeah,
Let's just it's the whole theory behind stress testing. It's you test it until it breaks, and then we know what our limits are, and then we know what we have to improve on. So yeah, and to your deal, Juan, or to I mean, it was some of the best things that I've ever been responsible for have been when I allowed my team to get creative and say,
Mhm.
listen, I have a problem. I need a solution. And the ideas that they came up with, the solutions we had eventually implemented were just amazing. And I wanted to take all the credit, but I'm not that big of a douchebag. So I I had to give them the credit, which really was more I gained more gratitude or more pleasure from giving them the credit
Mhm.
than I would have of taking it myself. And to see the pride that they took in their work
Mhm.
and the ownership that they took in their job and their roles going forward was it was spectacular. And uh, yeah, it's always a reminder of what could be if we just get people to
the
get away from being
opportunity.
fearful about failure.
Yeah. So let me tell you a little story that happened to me way back when I was young and had a lot of hair. Right.
We have pictures of that, by the way.
Yes.
It is true.
So as a young developer, I remember sitting in the meetings. I was a young kid in literally new into the IT environment. There's a entire workshop going on because they're rebuilding the application. They want to rebuild the in-house application, and they're stuck with a problem. And I kept saying, "No, I have a solution," and I keep getting ignored. And I kept saying, "No, I have a solution." I kept getting ignored until what eventually our boss says, "Okay, let's hear what the kid has to say." And I gave it the solution, which is still in place 30 years later, 40 years later. That solution is still in place. It became the foundation of the whole application. So my idea, that nobody wanted to listen to, became the foundation for the entire banking application that is still used until today.
Because somebody thought enough to give that
I,
kid
I, I never gave up. I
yeah.
kept saying, I kept
And
pushing,
that's
right? I was never afraid. So I kept pushing. I have an idea, I have an idea. Someone would have just, okay, they're not gonna listen to me, I'm gonna stay quiet. But no, I kept pushing my point across until eventually, okay, let's hear what he has to say and bingo, right? That was the key.
well, and how many times do you think that people are limited because of what's the popular term now, imposter syndrome?
Mhm.
No,
I don't think I'm really supposed to be here. I'm not qualified to be in this room. And I think that sense of fear right there keeps a lot of really talented mouths closed in situations like what you were just talking about, Juan.
I
And
used to be like that. That used to be me.
yeah, And it's crazy. And maybe that's part of a corporate or a business culture that we've shifted away from. But even still, today, especially with the younger generation, they they they're either over the top, I know exactly what I need to do, or they're wallflowers sitting way back here going, I hope nobody notices I'm in the room. And it's trying to figure out which one's which and moderating, encouraging, and coaching. So
Yeah, and empowering, right? Is the
yeah.
word, right? Empower the young minds to come out of that shell,
Mhm.
and be the best that they can be.
And you have to, as a leader, you have a responsibility to, when you have those young minds that you can see it, because if you're, I'm sorry, but I have the intuition as a leader. I see when someone has some potential, but they are just afraid to speak up, afraid to say anything. So it's not putting them on the spot, but kind of trying to bridge that gap of like, okay, let's get you out of your shell in a way where you are comfortable enough in sharing information. So as a leader, having that savviness to be able to get that out from them, everybody wins by that. Um,
And I witnessed you do that with the lady that we had breakfast with just a few weeks ago.
yep.
When she first came into the role that she came into in that particular organization,
Mhm,
she was super smart, brilliant young lady,
mhm,
but was suffering from imposter syndrome and did not want to speak in front of anyone.
mhm.
And because you encouraged her, by the time she left that organization to now, you can't hardly recognize her because she has just blossomed into this uh, amazingly successful person who's willing to speak her mind and take the risks that she wasn't willing to take when she first met you.
Yep.
Yeah, but that was me. I used to be that person. And so I found somebody that told me, you're smarter than what you think you are. You're capable. Don't hold yourself back.
Yep.
And because of that person, here I am, right? But yeah, I was shy. I was afraid to say anything because, what will happen if I say the wrong thing?
Yeah,
Yeah,
what is the worst that's going to happen?
nothing. You learn. There's two things that can happen when you take a risk. You win, or
You learn.
you have, yeah, or you learn. That's it. That's the only thing that can happen. So you can't see it any other way. And that's the cool stuff when you're able to really bring that the best out of someone, and allowing them the space to grow into something bigger that they wouldn't otherwise do because of their upbringing or other situations that they've been in. That's the cool part about
Yeah.
leadership. That's the part that I love about leadership is when you see when you plant the seeds and you're able to just grow it, just water it and watch it grow, and you're like, okay, this is what I'm talking about. Those are the greatest moments. Those are the greatest wins.
Yeah, but like you, I also have that superpower. I could tell when somebody is going to be really good. And this is the keeper, but unfortunately, works the other way around. You could tell, like, oh, well, this is a special case. Uh,
This is gonna be a rough one. All right, let's start wrapping it up. Final words from both of you.
So you mentioned it, and I'll expound on it just a little bit. Leadership's not a destination, it's a journey.
Mhm,
And like life, if you're not living, you're not learning, you're dying. And in leadership, if you're not practicing and you're not learning and you're not questioning and you're not curious, you're stagnant and you should be left behind. And that's likely what's going to happen. But if you can get past the fear of failure, if that's what's holding you back,
mhm,
if you can understand that, hey, everybody suffers from imposter syndrome at some point, and just get your head wrapped around the fact that you've got a seat at the table. You don't necessarily have to be the smartest person in the room, but ask the questions nobody else wants to ask because there may be other people in there too scared to ask those questions. So when it comes to a leadership journey, I've put it out there in videos before. I'm not the same leader I was a year ago. And I don't think I'm going to be the same leader I am a year from now that I am right now. And the simple reason behind that is experiences, my ability to learn, adapt, and grow.
Mhm.
And if I'm keeping those things going, and my goal is to support and to develop my team around me, then yeah, even if my title and position does not rise to great heights, it's still really awesome to see people that you work with and have worked for you grow. And in fact, I had one just a couple of weeks ago, and it's like, hey, listen, I hate to see you go, but I love to see you grow. And putting them out into the world, planting those seeds, it's just an amazing, amazing feeling.
I love that. Thank you, Tab, for those words. Juan?
Yeah, yeah. Your learning journey begins here, but it doesn't have an end.
Mhm.
Right? That journey is a continuous road, and you're always learning. Even today, I told one of the managers that I was needed to get home because we had to do a recording for a podcast, and he was interested. I said, "Oh, what you guys talk about?" Says different various topic, management. He says, send me the link. I could always learn something new. So the
Awesome.
fact that as a department head, he's said, send it to me. I you might be able to teach us something that I may not be aware of. So it's an ongoing journey, uh, and as long as you know that the journey is ongoing, then you're on the right track. If you think you already learned everything, well, it's a bumpy road ahead. Uh,
Yeah.
right?
That's a
You
rough
need to be
road.
able to adapt, especially how the environment and the workplace is changing. You need to adapt yourself as the environment is changing. So it's not about or learning more, but more of adapting yourself. Just as you will adapt your resume when you're going to send it for a job interview, you adapt it to the position you're applying. You adapt yourself to the team you're managing. So you need to be able to adapt yourself to the work group that you're working with, to that team that you're managing, whether they're an experienced team, a team out of full of freshers out of college. So you need to be able to adapt yourself and bring the best that they could be, and make sure that they know it.
Can I say one other thing?
Absolutely.
Don't take yourself so seriously.
Yeah.
You're gonna make mistakes. And if you spend all of your time beating yourself up over those mistakes instead of saying, you know what, I can't walk on water and I'm going to make mistakes, but I'm going to learn from those. If you can do that, that will build a resiliency in you as a leader that others will look at and envy. And I promise you, I'm not there yet. I beat myself up about stupid things all the time, but I don't stay down as long or as often as I used to. Just like Dr. Amin said, it's neuroplasticity. I built the new pathways. I recognize that this is a pattern and a trend, and it's easier to break that now.
Yeah, one of my young kids, the first thing he did, his first deployment, he brought the application down. He was freaking out. I says, don't worry about it. We can recover. Just don't do this again. This is, we do this in the middle of the night because during the day it impacts this, but don't worry about it. He was, he was scared because he brought the system down. Like, don't worry about it. We recover. We're back. We do it again. We'll try it again tonight, and we do it at the right time. And no problem. Now, he's comfortable. He's doing things. He's growing. but he had that little bump, but he was like,
Because
at first he was scared. I said, don't worry about it. Don't worry.
because you told him that it wasn't as big a deal to you as he was making it out for himself.
Yeah.
And it was a learning experience. And not a mistake I bet he'll ever make again.
Oh, no way. No
No,
way.
I don't think you'll do that again.
Yeah, but that was cool that you gave him the grace and allow him the space. Because yes, we are own worst enemies when it comes to thinking that something is worse or better than what it actually is. So when we as leaders unlearn fear, ego, I know both of you have spoken about it at length, and the need to be right. Whew. You create room for courage, empathy, and purpose. And that's one thing we didn't touch upon, I don't think enough, was that purpose. So we'll touch upon that on the next episode. The world needs leaders that you're becoming, not the leaders that you were for those experienced leaders. We'll see you on the next one. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Juan. Thank you, Tat.
Bye, guys. Thank